All right, so I went ahead and hooked the gauges up. You'll see right here, there's the high side AC port right there on the driver's side of the engine. And then there's a low side. Let me see if I can get over here. Show you the low side. And when it's under here, you have that. That's why I had this panel off right here so you can access it. It's right there, okay? And it's actually under the ECU. That's why I got the ECU right here. So you have to take, there's 3 bolts. You see there's 1, 2, T30 Torx. And then there's one, let's see over here, right there, okay? And then you can access this bolt right here under the fender well. Super easy, all right? And then just leave it plugged in to the harness, just swing it out here and just put something to protect this valve cover from getting scratched. All right, so then just in case if you've never used these gauges before, just what you're gonna do with these is got a little collar. Once you take the cap off, the black cap, there's a Schrader valve in there on each one. So there's got this little collar moves up and down here. So you pull it up and then you push this down and you release it and it should lock on there. Just kind of wiggle it, make sure it's on there. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn this clockwise to go in and open that Schrader valve. Same thing with this one too, turn it in and open it, okay? And then what's gonna happen is it's gonna let me get over here quick. I got this hooked to, this is in the center here. This is hooked to a vacuum pump, okay? And then you see my gauges, they're all at 0. See, they're at 0. This is at 0, okay? And basically, you're going to turn these open too. These are counterclockwise open. These up here, and that's going to let this pump pull. This is going to have vacuum on it right here, and it's going to go in here. And it's going to pull out of these 2 lines right here. It's going to pull air out of the system, draw it out, and come down through this line here, and it's going to go to this vacuum pump right here. Okay, it's going to pull it. So let me go ahead and turn it on, and then you can see. Let's see if we can go. Let me turn it on while you see if I can hold this right here, and you'll see the gauges move. Okay. See, that one pulled already. It's already negative. See, the needle's going to stop when it hits that little marker in there, and then this one right here is going to start going down. It's already at negative already. It's probably going to stop there. You see, it was at 0. Okay, so it's got vacuum on it now, and then what I'm going to do now is set my timer. We'll just do 30 minutes with a vacuum, okay? And then what we're going to do is we'll come back, we'll close these valves off, and then we'll see if it holds pressure, okay? If it doesn't hold pressure, then we have a leak somewhere, okay? So it should hold, vacuum, I'm sorry. It should hold vacuum. So these needles should stay negative, okay? On both sides. So we'll do that. So let me set the timer. We'll come back in 30 minutes and we'll shut this off, okay? And then maybe 30, 45 minutes. And then we'll come back. We'll shut the pump off, and then we'll lock these valves down, and then we'll let it sit for like another 30 minutes, and we'll check the pressures. All right, we're back. So basically what I did was I go ahead and closed out these 2 valves right here, and that's going to keep the air from escaping out here. Okay. I mean, since I turned these off here, what happens when I turn the pump off, it's going to keep the air from rushing back in to fill that void because there's a vacuum. It's going to try and suck the air back in. So we shut this off here so these lines don't have access to this port here, okay? So you can see the gauges are still holding a vacuum. It's negative right there, see? Still has a vacuum, all right? So that's good. So, and I went ahead and turned the pump off, okay? Once I shut those off, then I do the pump. So you don't want to turn the pump off first because then air will start getting sucked back in, okay? So now we're going to let it sit. I actually let it vacuum down for like 45 minutes. So we're going to give it like another 30 minutes or so, see if it holds vacuum. If it does, then we can start charging. Okay, we're back. It's been about 45 minutes, and let's see what we got. All right, so that's still holding vacuum there, and that one's still holding vacuum there, so it looks good. So I think we're good to go. We're ready to go ahead and put some Freon in this bad boy. First thing I got to do too is the oil's already good. So what I need to do is top this coolant off. The level did go down. I let it run a little bit, but it went down some, so I probably can't. Anyway, there's a little yellow piece of plastic in there. It says max on it, so you're going to fill it right to that. So let me go ahead and add some coolant. I'll tell you what, I got some over here. I already started mixing it. So this is what Dallas Performance recommends right here. It's called Fleet Charge. It's a heavy duty coolant. I was reading up on it. It's pretty good stuff right there. So yeah, here's in case you're curious to see what it says. So yeah, that was shocking that they used that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, so anyway, I mixed some distilled water with it. There it is, 50-50 right there. So let me go ahead and add this to the car, and then we'll continue after that. All right, guys. Well, I started to try and film me recharging this system, but you know, as I was doing it, the car was running. I'm trying to keep an eye on the gauges in the car, you know, because I just reinstalled the oil pump and water pump, so I'm constantly checking the oil pressure, you know, because the car's sitting there running, you know, and the water temp, and then I'm trying to keep an eye on the gauges and make sure the freons, the refrigerant is, you know, being sucked in right, and I'm trying to run back and forth with the camera, and it's just too much, and I want to make a mistake doing something. Decided so I can concentrate on this, so I decided to go ahead and just not film it, and then I'll just kind of give you a rundown of what I did real quick. So here's what I did. First thing I did was I had to check my fluids on the car. The coolant, you know, as a car, I did let it run and warm up for a little bit. Then I shut it off, and then, you know, the coolant level is going to go down after that. So I topped off the coolant, checked my oil level again. Everything's good. So once that was good there, then when I had started the car up, okay, you want to turn the AC on, and then I turned the fan on high. You know, some people put it on low or whatever. That's fine, but I like to turn it on high. And then so come out of the car. These gauges are already hooked up to the vehicle, okay? So you have one thing I noticed too when I was vacuuming the system down, that I did have these lines backwards. That's fine because you're going to pull vacuum out of both lines, okay, the high side and the low side. So that's fine. But when you're charging it, adding refrigerant to the system, you don't want these to be backwards, okay? So in other words, if I had this line and it's hooked up to this high side port, and this is hooked up to the low side, I could be trying to introduce refrigerant into the high side of the compressor, and you don't want to do that. You want to put it into the low side, okay? So if you're using some gauges like these are some old ones I had, probably 10 years or so. Done tons of cars with this thing, and basically match all the colors up, okay? So keep those all matched up. That way, if you're messing with the low side, it's really messing with the low side, okay? So that's one little tip I can try to give you right there. So anyway, okay, gauges are on the car, hooked up to the low side, hooked up to the high side. These are closed off. This is closed off, okay? So there's nothing going on there. Car's running, AC's on, fan's on, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I have my refrigerant. This is 134A, all right? This is what we're going to be putting in the system. Also, to go over the compressor, you have to make sure the system has PAG oil in it, which I already did. This particular compressor here, different compressors are probably going to use different oils. I mean, I would think. I don't know. I just know this one uses PAG 46. But you have different viscosities. You have a 46, let's say like a 150, you have a 100. Make sure you use the right one for the compressor, okay? So anyway, this one was 46. got plenty of oil. Another thing I noticed too was I finally got a hold of the manufacturer of the compressor. And he said basically for this vehicle here, it needed 700 grams of PAG oil. Okay, you remember earlier I think I said I put 240 in it because I couldn't find no reference nowhere for any kind of telling me how much oil to add to the system. So I did find a chart online that said to add 240. Okay, because I removed the receiver dryer and the compressor. Well, that was off. Okay, so good thing I finally got a hold of the manufacturer. So 700 grams. I just poured some of it in the receiver dryer. You can also pour it in through this line here. You can add it that way. There's some tools where you can add it in through the ports where you hook these up. You can add it in that way. There's like a bunch of different ways you can do it. Okay. So anyway, okay. Once I got this all hooked up here, so I got my can. This is the type of fitting I use. There's probably some different ones out there. So basically, just screw this on. You're going to take this here. Once you get this on the can here, then you're going to hook it up to this line here. Basically, what this yellow line does right here, this is your access port into your log manifold here, and this is going to pressurize this manifold here because this can is pressurized here. So you're going to hook this up to the can, snug it down. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn this in. It's going to pierce the can, okay? Then once you pierce the can, then you're going to open it up and it's going to release the refrigerant into this line here. And it's going to pressurize this manifold here, okay? One thing you want to do too is you want to purge this because it's going to have air in it, outside air with moisture in it. So go ahead and hit this valve, a couple times and just purge some of that air out so you can get some of this refrigerant up in there. Okay, don't put this next to your face though. Okay, get it in your eyes. So anyway, so now this is pressurized with refrigerant. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're gonna open up the low side, this is your suction side to your compressor. Okay, so you're going to open this up here, leave this one closed. Okay. Then you're going to go over here, and then you're going to open this up here, and it's going to let the refrigerant flow through this manifold and through this line into the suction side of the system, going to the suction side of the compressor, okay? So then it's going to start drawing, it's going to start drawing the refrigerant in, okay? And as it starts drawing it in, this can's going to get cold, so that's a good sign so you got something going on, okay? So it's going to get nice and cool. Then when this runs out, okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to close this off so that when you disconnect this can, you don't introduce outside air into the system, okay? So yeah, you're going to close this off. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come back here. You're going to, if this still has Freon in it, then what you're going to do is you want to close this off. But since it's already empty, you're going to suck, because what happens, you're going to need 550 grams. This is 340, so you're going to use this whole can up. This is going to be empty. You're going to take this fitting off of here. Be careful when you take it off because it's still going to be under pressure and there's going to be some refrigerant coming out, so just be careful with that. Once you get this off, you're going to transfer this to your new can, okay? And then you're going to repeat the process again. You're going to hook this up to your can again, all right? Once you get that hooked up, you're going to turn this down, pierce it, open it back up to let the refrigerant out into the manifold here, and then you're going to open this up to let the refrigerant into the system and being pulled in by the compressor on the suction side, okay? One thing is though, you got to be aware of is you want to make sure that you have the weight of this can right here, the can full of Freon, and the weight of this device here, whatever device you have that's going to introduce the refrigerant to the system, okay? So you need to weigh this whole thing here. You got to have a scale or something that measures grams, okay? And then I think I weighed this can before. It was like 470 something or whatever grams total, okay? That's with this, the can, and the refrigerant, okay? So write that down, keep it to the side somewhere, have it to the side, and then what you're going to do is you're going to have this next to the vehicle, okay? And then as you're pulling refrigerant out of this, okay, you already know what this weighs. So if you need another, okay, it's 340, so you're going to need another 210 grams of refrigerant, then what you're going to do is you're going to watch that number, this weight, the grams here. You're going to watch it go down from, let's say mine was 476, and it's going to count on down. You're going to subtract the 210 grams that you need. Once it gets to that value that you need, then what you're going to do is you're going to stop. Okay, you're going to close off this manifold, and if you still have refrigerant in here, you're going to close this off, and you can actually use this later and then remove the line. Just be careful when you remove the line, and that's it. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to close off this fitting here, and you're going to remove these fittings. Remember, by opening these up here and then pulling them off, and then that's it. It's charged up. Okay, so yeah, that's the real quick rundown of how I did it. If you really want to do it, get a really better somebody to explain it better, I would say just go on YouTube or somewhere online and look it up. There's tons of people explaining how to do this, and they can probably tell you way better than I can. But that's just a quick rundown. I probably missed something, but a rundown of how I did it. And so yeah, it turned out good. Once I got everything disconnected, went back in the vehicle. I checked the temperature coming out of the center air vents, and it was fluctuate when I moved the temperature gauge around. You can use like a gauge, like a meat thermometer or something like that. You stick down in there, or some other device to check the temperature. Mine was running anywhere between 42 degrees down to like 37, 36. It would fluctuate as I moved it around. So very, very cold, ice cold. So it's working perfect. Okay. So yeah, and then like I said, I made sure and went back out the vehicle. I checked to make sure the fan was running over the condenser, which it was. So everything was working good, working really good. So I'm happy how it turned out. So now, basically, I do is I get the car put back together, and I can take it out for a test drive, and then really check it. Really get an idea, because I'm in the garage now. I have the garage open, but it still gets hot in here. There's a lot of heat in here, and there's not a lot of movement flowing through the front of the car. So I'm sure it's going to work really good once I get it out in the open road and get some air flowing through the condenser and everything. We'll see what it really does, but it works great. Okay, so so that's done there. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to put the fender liner back in and the under panels. So I'm going to clean those up, and then I'll clean those up and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so we have the under panels. We had them all cleaned up. They turned out fantastic. Just scrubbed them down with a nice scrub brush, soap and water. Used some simple green on it to grease them. And then once I got them all nice and cleaned up, what I did was I used some Chemical Guys Bare Bones. It's an undercarriage protectant. It's for like fender liners, the frame of vehicles. It gives it that nice dark black clean look, like a factory look. And you can see these panels look like brand new now. I don't know how that's going to turn out on the camera, but they are just fantastic looking. You don't have to do this. I do this anytime, even under the car. I just want it to look really nice. Okay. And then also you see that we have our fasteners there. So this is the one by the back of the car. This one's got the 16 fasteners on it. And then this one's the one around the front of the engine that has 26 fasteners on it. I'm not going to videotape me putting these in. They're really easy. I can just hold it up with one hand. They're really small. And just start the fasteners. And then once I get them all in, I'll tighten it down. Okay. Now, if these were bigger pieces, maybe fiberglass or something like that, or if they were really heavy, then I would probably have somebody come help me. But these are small enough to where I don't risk a chance of ripping the parts by them flexing too much under their own weight. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I get done. All right, so we have the under panels installed, and it looks fantastic. Looks really good. Also, I went ahead and put in the fender liner. That's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to videotape that or anything. So just a couple fasteners in there. It holds that in, and then went ahead and mounted the wheel, and it's all torqued down, ready to go. So yeah, with these panels, basically, actually, I'm laying on my back and the car's on the scissor lift now. But let me show you something. Like this back panel here, what you want to do is it's going to slide in this groove right here. So this part's going to slide back under here. You're going to make sure that fits in that side. This is going to slide here on this side here. Once you get that slid in, then you can go ahead and start some of these fasteners. And then start these fasteners here to hold it, and then put the rest of them in. Just hand start all those fasteners, and then once you get them all in, just start from the center and just work your way out. That way the plastic won't, you know, buckle up or anything like that. It'll stay nice and flat, okay? And then the same thing with this panel here. You can start a couple of fasteners here and here just to hold it up. And then over here, this is going to hit on the frame. So you're going to need to pull it like out this way here, and then push up at the same time to get it to clear this frame here. And then make sure this e-brake cable is in this groove that's in this under tray here. And then also this piece right here, it's got a little flange here. You just pull it down, just bend it like this, and then slide it up inside there, okay? That's it. It's the same on both sides. So once you get those parts done there, and then go ahead and start all your fasteners by hand, and then tighten from the center, and then just work your way out from the center, okay? And then I did get a big buckle on this one side over here. So I had to loosen the fasteners up and then hold it down, and then snug these down, tighten them down, the fasteners, and then it was gone. It's nice and flat now, so that turned out great. Yeah, so, and while I was under here, I went ahead and checked for oil leaks. There was no oil leaks at all. I checked for coolant leaks, no coolant leaks. And also I checked all the fasteners to make sure that they were tightened. So I checked for the marks on all the fasteners, and those were all good, okay? So I think we're finished. So all we got to do now is it's really late here now. It's on a Friday night, so I think I'm just going to call it quits for tonight. The car's done, so it's ready to come down off the lift. And then what we'll do is we'll take it out for a test drive tomorrow, and we'll, you know, my eyes are going to be locked in on that oil pressure gauge. So we'll keep an eye on the oil gauge, the coolant gauge, and then we'll run the AC the whole time. And then we'll take it for a nice drive, and then we'll see how it works. But I think everything's going to be, it's going to be great. So I think we'll end the video there. It's been kind of a long one. And hopefully you enjoy this documentation here, and maybe it'll help you out if you have a AC compressor problem. Maybe, like I said, whatever kind of info I can give you here will contribute to you having success on your fixing your car too. So, but anyway, yeah, just if you want to, you can subscribe to my channel. I've got a bunch more projects coming up on this vehicle here. And I've got some other vehicles. I've got some scanning I got to do for some vehicles with my Leonardo diagnostic tool, some Lamborghinis and Ferraris, stuff like that. So I'll try to put, you know, some content up at least once a week if I can. But, you know, I've just been really busy. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And then, like I said, we'll just see you on the next project, and I hope you have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Nice.